here we have a cyclic quadrilateral. And a cyclic quadrilateral is one where all of the vertices touch the circumference of a circle. Okay, so here you can see we've got all our vertices here touching the circumference of a circle. Now we've got a problem here, is that we have this angle, which as we can see is 35 degrees, and our job is to work out what this angle is. Okay, so we're going to use some of the information that we already know to try and work out what this angle is. So one of the things we can look at is we can have a look at the fact that we've got these two lines here. Okay, now hopefully we should know that that means that these two lines, this one and this one, are the same size. Now if they're the same size, that means that this triangle is a isosceles triangle. Now because it's an isosceles triangle, that means that this angle here and this angle over here are going to be exactly the same. So that means we know that this angle over here is 35 degrees. Now we also know that the angles in a triangle, sorry I missed the N, angles in a triangle, we know that they add up to 180 degrees. So now that means we can work out what this angle is. Okay, we can work out what this angle is because we know that these two are 35 and 35, so that we know if we take these two angles away from 180, we'll find out what this angle is. Okay, so we can say that that angle, which we put as a question mark for now, equals 180 minus 35 plus 35. Alright, well obviously if we do that sum, that tells us that the question mark is equal to 110 degrees. So we know that this angle here, I'll write it in blue, is 110 degrees. Okay, now how does that help us find out this angle, this one here, this is the one we're looking for? Well, what it means is that we can now work out what this angle is. And we can work out what this angle is because we know that opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add up to 180. So that we know that this one, if we call this angle B, we know that B, and let's say we call this angle A, we know that angle A and angle B, so A plus B, we know must equal 180 degrees. So that tells us that B must equal 180 minus the size of angle A, which is 110 degrees, which means that B is 70 degrees. Okay, now how does that help us work out what E must be? Alright, well if we have a look, we now know that B is 70 degrees. We can write in 70 degrees here. Alright, well have a look at this triangle and we can see that again we've got lines here. Alright, now last time we had lines there, we know that that meant that this line here and this line here are the same length. If they're the same length, that means we've got an isosceles triangle, which means if this angle is 70 degrees, then this angle must also be 70 degrees. Okay, now if I just rub out some of my writing so we've got a bit more room. Okay, that means that if this is 70 degrees and this is 70 degrees, that means we can calculate this angle here. Okay, and we can calculate this angle here, let's call that angle C. Okay, now we know that C is going to be equal to 180 minus this angle here, which is 70, and this angle here, which is 70. So we can say, so over here we say C equals 180 minus 70 plus 70 degrees, and then that means that we can write C equals 40 degrees. Okay, so now we know angle C, which we now know, I'm going to write that in as 40 degrees. We now know that this angle is 35 degrees. Alright, so we can use another piece of information that we've learned over the last few weeks, which is that this angle here is an angle on a straight line, and we know that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so we've got two of the angles. We've got 40 degrees and 35 degrees. So we know that this angle here, angle E, is going to equal 180 minus those 2 degrees, those two angles that we've just calculated. So we can say 35 plus 40. Let's put our degree symbol in, so don't forget our degree symbol. Alright, so if we do 180 minus 35 plus 40, well, that E equals 180 degrees minus 75 degrees, and then we can say E equals 105 degrees. So our answer to this exam question is that E equals 105 degrees.